Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with you with another edition of Rudy's Common Sense. And today's edition, they all do, but this one means a lot to me because this edition is about something I put in thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of my life. And that is to make New York safe. It wasn't done by smoke and mirrors. It wasn't done by chicanery. It wasn't done by trick. It was done by unbelievably hard work, not just by me, but by Bill Bratton and Howard Safer and Bernie Kerik. And I mention them really to honor what probably all told was 70 or 80,000 police officers who worked for me during that period of time, of whom it was about 41,000 at any one time. This is not meant to glorify me. I didn't do that because I had to. Oh, yes, I did have to. I had to because of my conscience. I had to because of the way I was brought up, and I had to because they're the ones who reduce crime for me. To see what's happening in New York City now breaks my heart. The crime rate was down in New York due to me, mostly. I have for years been more than willing to share the credit with Michael Bloomberg. I haven't been willing to share it with David Dinkins because it's a complete lie. But the reality is that most of 80, 90% of the crime reduction was due to me. And I say that because I want you to listen to my words, because I have the experience to tell you what to do, because I'm the only one who's ever done it. No one in the history of this country has reduced crime anywhere close to what I did in an 8-year period. So please listen to me. This isn't politics. This isn't showmanship. This is about the lives of Americans, and now the lives of people all over America, because we are going through maybe one of the most abrupt, dramatic crime waves in our history. It is making the pandemic start to look small.
A violent argument inside a Bronx subway station turned deadly, and now that murder is causing riders to fear for their safety. This all comes as the MTA released statistics at its board meeting saying that random attacks and robberies have risen sharply. The White Plains Road 241st Street station on the number 2 line became a crime scene shortly after midnight. Police responded to a 911 call and found a man with a stab wound to his torso that proved fatal.
We believe that there was a dispute between the victim and another man that began on the street and escalated inside the station near the booth. The suspect stabbed the victim during the fight, and the victim succumbed to his injuries shortly thereafter.
On December 1st, also in the Bronx, a man slapped an Asian woman across her face at the 174th Street station. It's being investigated as a hate crime. The MTA's own statistics show that from October to November this year, major felonies jumped 46%, from 161 to 235.
So we had a new election. One guy came along named Eric Adams. He was a New York City police captain, but he was also a New York City politician.
My message to anybody considering coming to Los Angeles, especially during the holiday season, is don't. We can't guarantee your safety. It is really, really out of control. I said it to people before. It's like that movie Purge. Instead of 24 hours to commit your crime, these bad people have 365 days to commit whatever they want.
A dire warning from the head of the Los Angeles Police Union as crime surges in Southern California.
And it's not just Los Angeles. Crime is running rampant throughout the state. CVS Pharmacy announcing it will close 6 of its stores in San Francisco. The chain was one of several retailers targeted by an organized crime ring that stole items worth more than $200,000 from a number of retailers, including Target and Nordstrom. You've seen those viral videos going around.
I mean, these liberal bail policies are adding fuel to the fire. In the past 2 weeks, 14 people were arrested for smash and grabs, but most have already been released on zero bail. Joining us now to discuss all of this is Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. Sheriff, good to see you.
Good to see both of you. Merry Christmas.
Well,
Merry Christmas to you.
Let's get right to this. We know that this isn't just a California problem. This is happening in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia. Most of these big cities with liberal leaders, they're seeing this type of crime. We saw two lawmakers in both Chicago and Philadelphia. They were both victims of armed carjackings in the past 24 hours. Fortunately, neither one was injured. But let me ask you, is your department seeing a similar spike in this brazen crimes like this?
Well, I can tell you for this year alone, in comparison to pre-pandemic, we have a 92% increase in homicides. That's a 2-year jump, and that is just enormous. 1 year alone, we're at 44.39% increase in our jurisdiction.
Well, he ran for mayor. He had been a Republican. He changed to a Democrat in order to run. He had been a pretty left-wing borough president of Brooklyn, woke. But then when he started running for mayor, then the crime started going up. He said, I'm the only one who knows how to reduce crime. I did it. I did stop and frisk. I did arrest. I know that there are false claims of police brutality as well as valid ones. So he ran as a law and order candidate. I'm going to get rid of no cash bail. I'm going to not let people out of prison the way they've been doing. I'm going to increase and put back what we call the anti-crime unit. Let me translate that for you. The anti-crime unit are plainclothes police officers that I invented with Bill Bratton and Jack Maple. God rest his soul. And they were plainclothes police officers who mingled in crowds and caught the muggers after the second mugging. And they were aided by police officers on horseback who could see in the crowd. And then they spread out all over the city, and there is not a single expert on law enforcement that doesn't credit them with a huge reduction in guns, not by using the feckless gun control laws, which have no impact on innocent people, but by using probable cause to seize a gun and taking it. So I'll give you the end result. We reduced homicide by about 65%. We reduced overall crime by about 68%. And in the black communities, we got up to about 80%. Nobody has ever come close to that ever in New York. No one has ever come close to that ever in New York City. And did anybody think that was possible at the beginning? Yeah, me. Me. Right. I don't think even Bill Bratton was comfortable with that. But at any event, he sure helped me. And although he says very mean things about me in his book, which are cheap and are not worthy of him, I continue to respect his contribution to the city. But his contribution, when the New York Times writes that he started stop and frisk, I'm not even sure he was in high school when I learned about stop and frisk from Dr. James Q. Wilson, who I appointed as the head of the Attorney General's Task Force on Violent Crime, and spend time working with him and learning it. Or when I learned about RICO from the professor who wrote that statute. I came into office as the mayor of New York City, and I say this modestly, as probably one of the biggest experts on crime in New York City. I came from a family of 4 police officers, 2 cousins. I lived it as a child. I lived it as an assistant U.S. attorney. I lived it as U.S. attorney. And I knew the police department backwards and forwards because I was part of the Knapp Commission, and I convicted 70 police officers and sent them to prison. If you want to see a fictionalized version of it, go watch Prince of the City. And we reformed and reformed and reformed, and we left to Michael Bloomberg a totally different city. And Michael Bloomberg, to his eternal credit, improved it. And then along comes de Blasio, and piece by piece, it falls apart until we get to 2019, 2020, and crime, murder goes up 50%, shootings 100%, and the city is on its way to hell. Adams comes along and says, I'm going to save it. Says good things, and I partially support him, although my candidate was Curtis Lewa. But I thought of him as a good alternative. He begins pretty well. He says, I'm going to put back the plain clothes unit. Take a little while to train him, but I'll get him back there. The minute I heard that, something goes off here in my incredible instinct for understanding the evils of bureaucracy. What do you mean it's going to take me a while to do it? They were just doing it a year ago. They did it for 20 years. You got 800 of them that could do it tomorrow in their sleep. You put that together in 3 days. People are dying while they're not there. I see murders that you don't get to see the way I see them. I see murders that my anti-crime police could have stopped. I've seen murders of 4-year-olds that my anti-crime police could stop. Do you know how that feels? If you're a man of decency, if you feel public office is an obligation to help save people's lives, it started to look good until he said one thing, and this thing, boom. He said, in answer to a question from a reporter, who are you going to rely on as your model for law enforcement? And he said, David Dinkins and Michael Bloomberg. Okay, I've been quiet for years about sharing credit. Now I'm not going to be quiet because it's about my city, darn it. I'm going to show you something, and we'll see who's responsible for reducing crime in New York City. And now we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll look at the hard proof and find out what the truth is and crack a hole in the left-wing lying mythology. How much equity do you have in your home? 50,000, 100,000, more? Cybercrime experts are alerting homeowners that the more equity you have, the greater the chance foreign and domestic criminals will come after you. Title theft is one of the fastest growing crimes. Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection, is alerting homeowners they could already be a victim and not know it. Here's how it goes down. First, cyber thieves search hundreds of public databases for high equity homes. Next, they pull your home's title that's online. They forge your signature stating you sold your home, and they take out loans using your equity. You're not covered by insurance, your bank, or common identity theft programs. Protect your most valuable asset. Register your address now to see if you're already a victim and receive a complete title history of your home, a $100 value free. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Welcome back to Rudy's Common Sense, our analysis of crime in New York, but also in America, because as you're going to see, this is happening now all over America. It's become an epidemic. And could it be more dangerous than CCP virus? It could be. But in any event, it sure is more brutal. 2-year-old children lying on the street dead with a bullet in their brain. Yeah, can you tolerate that? If you can, I'm not sure you're human. So, I went back myself, no researcher, no big team of lying CNN researchers. I did it myself. And I also know the numbers change because when I left, the city had something like 600 murders or 500. Then it went up to 900 because, they solve a murder 4 years later, and then they put it in the year that the murder took place. So let's say you solve a murder in 2005, but it took place in 2001. That murder goes into 2001 and vice versa. So all numbers go up. Dinkins, mine, Koch, Bloomberg. But we're pretty far out now, so it's not going to change more than about 1%, maybe 2%, if that. I'm going to show you Rudy's chart. Now, this is not a McKinsey and Company chart. Their charts usually are filled with lies to make their client happy. And it's not a political chart because that's filled with lies that are meant to fool you. So I did this chart myself. I went back into the numbers. I got them directly from my continued contacts in the New York City Police Department, who I will not mention because they will be fired. And there are a lot of them. I now want to show you the real numbers. You go check them yourself. They're in, you get them online. They'll probably take them down after I put these up. Here's the truth. Who reduced crime in New York City in that 24-year period? Oh, Dinkins started it. Yeah, Dinkins fought getting new police officers. He was forced to do it by a great, great New Yorker who receives too little credit for his part in the revolution of New York. Peter Vallone, the Speaker of the City Council, a Democrat, who we are going to have on this podcast, just for the mere fact of honoring him, but also because you'll learn a lot about what needs to be done about helping American cities. He should have been mayor. In 1990 to 1993, Dinkins governed. Dinkins defeated me by 30,000 or 40,000 votes, an election that was hotly disputed for one day when I closed it down and said, we're not disputing the election. And nobody will believe it anyway. I'll be an illegitimate mayor, and a court will not tolerate the idea that the first black mayor was defeated in court. If I'm ever going to defeat him, I got to do it at the ballot box. So Dinkins had what could be regarded as, up until de Blasio, the worst 4 years in New York City history. There's one way he definitely does. He has the distinction of having by far the most murders occur while he was mayor. He got it up over 2,000 murders a year, and he basically stayed there every year. The last year, he got it reduced, probably by keeping murders out. But as he came out of office, new murders were discovered, and it turned out he handed me off a city with more crime than it had when he came in, which the New York Times lies about every opportunity it gets. I'll give you the exact number. He had a total of 174 murders the day he left and the day he walked in. So he added 174 murders to the Koch count and put us over 2,000. Now, I'm not going to take you through my 8 years and the 20% reductions. Here's what I lowered murder by from the day I came into office from Dinkins to the day I passed it off to Bloomberg in the midst of the catastrophe of 9/11. I reduced murder by 1,460 people. That's a per year basis, by the way. So roughly, I saved the lives of about 8,000 people that would have died had I continued to do what the feckless Dinkins did. De Blasio was handed by Bloomberg because I don't want to minimize we don't want to minimize Bloomberg's reduction of only 265 murders. Remember, he had 12 years to take it down 265. I had only 8 years to take it down 1,460. I think that's a big difference. But it is true that as you go lower, it becomes harder to reduce crime. But Bloomberg didn't do it. No disrespect to Michael at all. He was a good mayor. He didn't know squat about law enforcement. But he did have Ray Kelly, who's a genius. He was a great police commissioner. And the mere fact that he could continue to reduce crime when it was that low, any number, 100, would be a good number. But I'm sorry, it's not 1,460. So who took New York City from the crime capital of America to, you see right down here, I have a little star, to the safest large city in America in 3 years? I did. Who reduced crime in New York City? Dinkins, plus 174. Bloomberg, minus 265. Or Giuliani, minus 1,460. Well, it's quite obvious that I reduced crime. Now, let's look at Dinkins for a moment. Dinkins is now Adams' model. Dinkins inherited a city with 2,246 murders from Koch. Immediately, he took it up 400 murders. First year, 400. Boop, boop, boop. Then he got his extra cops. He took it down 100. Then he took it down another 100. By 92, he sort of had murder coming down, but from 2,600. You think it's coming down when it's 2,300 murders? But the last year he was in office, which is the year he handed off to me, it went back up to 2,400 murders. So don't tell me Dinkins reduced crime. Go tell that to a jackass. Some liberal jackass that will say, yes, the New York Times is always right. I took over a city with 2,420 murders, almost the record of 2,605. Dinkins holds that record too. These are great records to hold, right? So, first year I reduced it, 400 murders. His first year he increased it 400. My first year I reduced it 400. By the time I was finished, I reduced it cumulatively 1,460, but gross 8,000. And moved it from the crime capital of America to the safest large city in America. And handed it over to Mike that way, who continued to reduce it. There were many more numbers he could reduce it by. So I'm not in any way minimizing Bloomberg. And I would never in a million years minimize Ray Kelly. We have a new sheriff in town. Tough guy. Gonna reduce crime. Gonna bring back the anti-crime unit. Gonna keep people in jail. I came into town, they were scared of me. I held a speech and I said, you can protest, you can yell, you can call me a Nazi, I don't care what the heck you call me. I'll protect you. I'll make sure nobody hurts you when you do that. I believe in the First Amendment. But the first time you throw a rock, the first time you spit at somebody, you're going to get arrested. They said I couldn't put the mafia in jail. They said I couldn't get those ex-Nazis. They said I'd never get Milken and Boski. Where are they now? And where are you going to be? What do you think? You want to bet on me or you want to bet on yourselves? I didn't have a single riot for 8 years after 2 major riots and about 12 small ones. I had a definable effect on crime because they were afraid of me. I'm going to show you the effect of the new sheriff in town. After all that tough talk during the election, his first week in office, you would think it would have at least a psychological effect. And when I come back, we'll take a short break now, and I'll show it to you. Not long ago, Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and his team fit me for my very own MyPillow. They also introduced me to their wide assortment of other incredible products, like their mattress topper, their sheets, towels, slippers, and more. Sleep is incredibly important to me, and I can assume for all of you. It's time you give MyPillow a try and see for yourself. Listeners have helped build MyPillow into the incredible company it is today, and Mike Lindell wants to give back to all of you. You can get great discounts on MyPillow products by going to mypillow.com right now and seeing each of the specially priced items, including those in the radio listener special square. You're going to see rotational offers up to 66% off on products like their pillows, mattress topper, Giza sheets, but also new products like their slippers, weighted blankets, robes, and waffle blankets. All MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Enter promo code Rudy for these great specials. That's mypillow.com and use the promo code Rudy. You know that I am obsessively involved with CompStat. It is a baby that I shared in the creation of with Bill Bratton and Jack Maple. I was in great detail knowledgeable about the FBI crime stats. I would sit there and look at trends of crime, and I don't want to say it was a parlor game, but I was pretty accurate as to where the next big cities were going to be. You look at public drunkenness. You look at the things that people who aren't in control of themselves have happened to them. So here's the numbers. First full week of Mayor Adams' mayoralty. Murder up way beyond de Blasio, 50%. Robbery up 25.9% or 30%. So murder 50, robbery 25. Grand larceny 63.5%. Grand larceny auto 77%.
Got to tell you something about New York City. This city right now, it used to be one of the top tourist destinations in the country, but no. I have to urge you to follow Kamala Harris's advice, actually.
Do not come. Do not come.
All right, she was talking about some other place to some other people, but do not come to New York right now. No, that is from the bottom of my heart. You've got to avoid this town, at least for the time being, because we have some crazy people who are running the show right now, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Now, that man taking the oath of office is the new district attorney for New York County, Manhattan. His name is Alvin Bragg, and he believes that this crime that you're about to see, a man, an armed robbery, that if he should be arrested and if he should be convicted, he should not go to jail. Well, no one was hurt. No one was hurt. He just showed a gun. No one was actually hurt. Lowering that crime from a felony to petty larceny, and no requirement, no recommendation even for prison. This is wild, and this is happening in America. What about resisting arrest? You would imagine, I mean, I've heard this a million times. If you resist arrest, that's just going to make your situation worse. They'll charge you for this stuff. You can't resist arrest. Well, they won't prosecute you for resisting arrest. So to the criminals, why not resist arrest? What do you have to lose? Nothing. The office will not prosecute resisting arrest. It gets crazier from there. I mentioned last year, 2020, things were bad even with a Totally not insane, prosecutor. All these folks, by the way, they just, we're going to let this one go. Nobody was charged, but that was kind of seen as a one-time thing.
Rudy Giuliani has been serving the people of the United States since he was in the Department of Justice under President Reagan. Here's just a sample of what he accomplished as mayor of New York City. Mayor Giuliani cleaned up New York City. Mayor Giuliani cleaned up the city. Residents wanted to stay and not leave like they did prior to his administration. According to a 1990 Time magazine poll, 59% of New Yorkers said they would live somewhere else if they could. But by the end of Mayor Giuliani's time in office, just 31% said that they'd want to live somewhere else. Giuliani cut crime 56% as mayor. Between 1993 and 2001, New York City experienced a 66% decline in murders. During the same time period, there was a 72% decline in shootings. New York City experienced a 56% decline in the Facebook crime index between 1993 and 2001, far outpacing 16% decline in national crime index. In addition to the decline in murders, New York saw a 45.7% decline in rapes, a 67.2% decline in robberies, a 39.6% decline in aggravated assault, a 68.2% decline in burglary, a 43% decline in larceny, and a 73.3% decline in motor vehicle theft. In 1993, there were 11,545 major crimes per week. By 2001, that number had dropped to 5,072. Over a 7-year period, Mayor Giuliani added 12,000 police officers in New York City. Under Mayor Giuliani, the number of police officers in New York City skyrocketed. Mayor Giuliani added 12,000 police officers between 1994 and 2000, bringing the number of NYPD officers to 40,000, the highest number in the history at the time. 7,555 of those officers were the result of merging the NYPD with transit and housing police departments. Drug use, particularly crack cocaine, declined dramatically in the city during Mayor Giuliani's term. On the surface, crack has all but disappeared from much of New York, taking with it the ragged and violent vignettes that were a routine part of the street life. The police considered the transformation of parts of Harlem, Washington Heights, and Brooklyn something of a miracle. Emblematic of New York's determination to beat back the drug tide that many people thought would overwhelm it. "I'm not ready to say we won," Police Commissioner Howard Saffer said recently. "But we're no longer the crack capital of the world." He attributed the change to a policy of zero tolerance to the open sale or use of drugs. FBI statistics established New York City as safest large city in America. According to FBI statistics, New York is the safest large city in the nation from July 1st, 1996 through June 30th, 1997. The graph showed 44% fewer major felonies and 60% fewer murders. Mayor Giuliani got rid of the mob at the Fulton Fish Market. Ousting the mob from the Fulton Fish Market was one of the Giuliani administration's most important achievements, not just in reducing crime, but also in improving the city's business climate. And cutting the exorbitant prices that resulted from mob control meant real savings to every New Yorker. As part of that cleanup, Team Giuliani ousted 6 mob-linked unloading firms from the market and gave the contract to Laro Service Systems. Now the vendors have formed a new cooperative and want to do the job themselves, ostensibly to save money. Giuliani removed pornography from City and Times Square. Giuliani cleaned up Times Square. "It's great to have him moving in here. It's very symbolic," said Ellen Goldstein, Director of Community Management for the Times Square Business Improvement District. "He's the guy who chased out the porn, the 3-card Monte guys, the squeegee men from Times Square. Nobody would be building offices in Times Square if Rudy Giuliani hadn't been mayor." Giuliani brought together a public-private partnership to clean up Times Square. About 4 years ago, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani harnessed a private-public team of developers to start cleaning up Times Square, bringing in shiny neon-lighted hotels, theme stores, and restaurants that are a core of the area's renaissance. New York City's made progress against commercial sex under the leadership of Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. Times Square has been cleaned up and porn shops all over town shut down. NYCLU head Norman Siegel defended sex shops when Mayor Giuliani instituted moratorium against new or expanded sex-oriented businesses. City council members yesterday agreed to Mayor Rudolph W. Giuliani's plan for a 1-year moratorium on opening or expanding any sex-oriented video store, theater, or bar. Norman Siegel, executive director of the New York Civil Liberties Union, said the moratorium was a violation of the First Amendment and added he expected his group would file a suit against the city on behalf of the adult entertainment business. Law is antithetical to civil liberties and repudiates New York City's rich history and tradition of respect for freedom of speech, especially sexual expression. New York Observer. Pornographers owe a big thank you to Norman Siegel, executive director of the New York Civil Liberties Union, and his so-called civil libertarian colleagues who have been defending the rights of porn peddlers over the rights of average New Yorkers. It's hard to choose which group is more obscene, the pornographers who seek to return the city to the dark ages of the 1970s, or Mr. Siegel and his dimwit pals who itch to file lawsuits on their behalf. Giuliani vowed to seal loophole in law that allowed porn shops to continue to operate. Mayor Giuliani revived his crusade to crush smut shops and X-rated clubs yesterday, vowing to seal a loophole in a 1990s law that failed to slow the topless dancing and porno video trades in many neighborhoods. The mayor said his proposal would let city inspectors take into account other factors, such as the prominence of sex-related items when deciding whether to shut an establishment. The proposal also would require owners to place partitions between the adult and non-adult portions of their business, helping to end sham efforts to sidestep the law, Giuliani said. Giuliani's new zoning restrictions draw fire from X-rated businesses and NYCLU. Mayor Giuliani's tough new zoning restrictions on sex shops drew mostly yelps of protest yesterday at their first public airing at City Hall. The complaints came from a parade of lawyers for X-rated businesses, the New York City Liberties Union. The proposed new restrictions, which are aimed at tightening the definition of adult establishments subject to the much litigated 1995 zoning law, eliminated would be the so-called 60-40 loophole. That allowed scores of sex-related businesses to stay open by devoting at least 60% of their inventory or floor space to non-adult material or activities. The proposed new rules would empower the City Buildings Department Commissioner to use consumer activity and volume of sales, along with physical features, to impose the zoning restrictions. Giuliani cut down quality of life offenses. The phenomenal decline under Mr. Giuliani, or larger crimes such as murder, robbery, and rape, was matched by a reduction in quality of life offenses, which in turn contributed to the drop in major crime. Giuliani cracked down on squeegee men. Rudy Giuliani adopted the broken window approach to policing when he became mayor of New York City in 1994. Even though New York was besieged with gang violence, muggings, and murder, Giuliani turned the city's police attention to small, quality-of-life concerns, with astonishing success. When police cracked down on the infamous squeegee men who harassed commuters by city bridges, they sent the message that the laws, all of them, were to be taken seriously. The city's new police commissioner, Ray Kelly, has also been praised for ordering precinct commanders to continue Giuliani's policy of vigorously tackling minor crimes which affect the quality of life. Bloomberg took pains to say he would not abandon Giuliani's quality of life crimes reduction, and Mr. Bloomberg, who will take office on Tuesday, took pains to say he would not abandon what had become a hallmark of Mr. Giuliani's tenure, curbing the kind of low-level law-breaking, be it public urination or drinking, that Mr. Giuliani argued contributed to a general decline in the fabric of life in New York before he took office in 1994. Giuliani fought to cut funding to Brooklyn Museum over its Sensation exhibit. Mayor Giuliani called Brooklyn Art Museum Sensation exhibit Catholic bashing. Giuliani, is there Catholic bashing going on? Go ask Cardinal O'Connor if there's Catholic bashing going on. You take one of the most important symbols to Catholics and have pictures of private parts of women displayed all over it. Of course it's Catholic bashing. NYCLU head Norman Siegel attacked Mayor Giuliani for withholding city funds from Brooklyn Museum of Art over Sensation exhibit, a controversial art exhibit featuring mutilated pigs floating in formaldehyde and a dung-splattered painting of the Virgin Mary, has every right to go on, but without a penny of city money. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani said Wednesday New York Civil Liberties Union head Norman Siegel sided with the museum, calling Giuliani's yanking of funding heavy-handed and inappropriate. Siegel, we have to support the people in the museum, and we have to let the rest of the country know that we in New York are not going to let Mayor Giuliani or anyone in government dictate what goes up in the walls of a museum.
You stay tuned right here, and we will make sure that we put on such pressure that we save our people. So let's watch the mayor. Let's say it was a first week oversight for a guy that's been hanging around city bureaucracies for too long. And let's see if this doesn't get him to wake up. Thank you very, very much for your attention. God bless you, and God bless America.